Week 7 in college football is here. Big games, big intrigue. Nebraska rests, but we do not. Lots of picks on the Huskers and nationally. Join us.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
All right, welcome in. Connor Happer from 1620 The Zone, Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Thursday of the bye week. And so we have a couple days left here. We'll have a guest tomorrow on the show, which will be fun. Excited to bring that to you. But we have to make our picks. And so we're going to look at some other games around college football this weekend. It's a huge weekend in college football.
Exciting weekend.
Great day, Mitch, to be on the couch on Saturday. So make sure you get the apple picking or whatever you need to get done before the long day on Saturday. And we're going to look ahead to Nebraska's second half of the season and statistically how they might fare. So, Mitch, tell us about last week in picks. I have a feeling that it did not go very well for me, just based off of what I remember.
Yeah, it didn't go well for either of us. Well, it didn't go horribly. We both went 4-4 in the Nebraska props and picks.
Okay.
Some amusing stuff. It was kind of it was a defensive day, so we were definitely under on the yardage props. Like we had Raiola at 269. He was 134 on passing. Kyle Monungai, we set the over under at 124.5. He was in the 70s. So under hit on all of that stuff. I got both of those on the under. You got Monungai on the under. You picked Raiola to go for 270 plus passing. That didn't work out. Not that week. Under on Jamal Banks yardage, penalty yardage. I had Nebraska with a big swing, more penalty yardage than Rutgers. That didn't hit. Interesting. You got the first points of the game correct in Dante Dowdell. So congrats on that one. I, to counteract that, picked correctly that Rutgers would block a punt or kick. We had that as one of our picks, and it happened twice. So that was a victory for me. And we both hit that Athan Kaliakmanis would throw an interception. He actually threw 2. We said that he would do that. So our bonus bet, which goes through the end of the year from last week about Barrett Liebentritt touching the football, man, it almost happened. They handed off to the fullback, but it was Dante Dowdell as the fullback on a dive short yardage situation with Heinrich Harburg as the tailback in that spot. So the game was a push. It was Nebraska was a 7-point favorite and Nebraska won by 7. So nobody gets credit for that. So for the season on the Nebraska props, I have 23 correct. You have 19 correct. And against the spread on the Huskers, I'm 3-2-1. You are sadly 1-4-1 against the spread on Nebraska this season. So
can't figure these guys out, I guess.
Yeah. When we get to the national and Big Ten games, I will quickly review what our record is on that. It's much more favorable for you. So
okay, good.
All right, start us off.
We're going to take you through some second half over unders. All right. So some of the stuff that we picked out for the entire season, but now we're looking at just condensed down into the back half of the season, knowing what you know right now. We're 6 games in, 6 games left. Here we go. Nebraska road victories in the second half of the season. Nebraska has 4 games on the road in the final 6 games at Indiana, at Ohio State, at USC, and at Iowa. We're putting the win total on those 4 games at 1.5 wins. Mitch, what say you?
I want to ask you something first. Okay. Is that where you would have where would you have set the over under there?
Yes, I would have set it exactly there.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Yep. I'm going under. It's a sad pick, but I'm saying under. I think Nebraska is going to win 1 of its last 4 road games.
I think that I will take the over because just the percentages in these games for me, they add up to enough where like, and this is not how football works. Like it's pretty black and white. You either win or you lose. But, I've said before, I like their chances at Indiana. I like their chances more than usual at Ohio State. Not.
Oh, really? Okay.
Not really close to, close to winning probably, but I like their chances. Like I like their chances more than 62-3. Let's just say that.
This is straight up.
Yeah. People make comparisons to 62-3, in 2016. I just don't think that's going to be that.
Not with this defense.
And then I think they're, I like their chances to get one against USC or Iowa.
So do I.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, I think the difference between us here, Mitch, is that is the Indiana game. So I don't know. I'm playing the percentages here and going yes. I think they win more than
counters over.
Yeah, more than one.
All right.
The second number that we have, Dylan Raiola passing yardage. Dylan Raiola's passing yardage so far this year. Dylan has thrown for 1,358 yards. The number in the second half is 1,400 yards. Over or under?
I'm going over. Improvement. The freshman's going to improve. Schedule's a little bit tougher. Nebraska may need to put the ball in the air more in the second half of the season. I think he's going to be a noticeably better quarterback in the second half of the season than in the first. How about that? Over 1,400 yardage in the passing yards in the second half. He'll have a 300 game or two.
His passing yardage number has been sort of all over the board in the first 6 games of the season. It came out. I mean, it came out of the gate, relatively slow, and then he had the 185 against Colorado. Then he had the 134 this past weekend against Rutgers.
Yeah.
But I would expect a normal game for him to be in about the 250 to 270 range. Like I think that's just where we can expect him to be. And so with that, the averages on that would lead you to pretty dang close to that number. So I'll take the over as well. And I think at the end of the day, he's probably sitting up near 3,000 yards on the season.
Yep. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Let's go to rushing touchdowns. Rushing touchdowns. This is total as a team. Nebraska has 11 of those in the first half, but they only rank 90th in the country in rush yardage per game. By the way, Mitch, do you know the number? Not to put you on the spot here, but do you know the number, what they're rushing per game off the top of your head?
Somewhere around 136, I think, is 136.7, I think is the actual number.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. Yeah. So I thought that a successful year would be to get to like 160. So they're off that mark as of right now. 11 first half touchdowns. We'll set the second half number at 10.5.
Yeah. I am taking the under on that. I think the second half of the season is going to be filled with games where Nebraska is going to have to put the ball in the air to score.
I actually agree with you. I think, and they're not great in the red zone either. They haven't finished drives at a good rate. The Purdue game was, maybe it's skewing that stat a little bit because they went 0 out of their first 6, just getting into the opponent territory and not scoring any points out of it. So I think Nebraska's, option in that situation would be to take to the skies, if you will. I'll take the under here.
Yeah, they've had to be creative in how they've gotten the ball in the end zone on the ground when they're in short yardage situations. Whether it's a reverse or the little front tosses to Bonner or Barney. Those count as passes if the back runs in front of the quarterback. So anyway.
Handoffs to Janier and Bonner are still handoffs, though. Yes. Okay. So
if you hand it off behind the quarterback, absolutely.
Right. Final turnover margin for the season. Nebraska is astoundingly sitting at +6 in the turnover margin right now with 4 giveaways and 10 takeaways. We're going to set that number for the season at over under +9.5. First of all, this is amazing that we're even talking about this. But this is the number, Mitch. What do you think?
So this is to counteract any jinx that we may have created on Nebraska by talking too much about the great turnover play that has existed for the Huskers in the first half of the season. So I'm taking the over because I want no part of being involved in this thing, like going back to 0. And it's like, you kept talking about it. Why'd you have to keep talking about it? They've only fumbled one time in the first 6 games. That's not something you should bring up. So I'm picking the over. Nebraska's going to finish plus 10 or higher this year in turnovers.
Oh my gosh. I think what we will find generally in the second half is that it will be that turnovers, that takeaways will be tough to come by, but Nebraska will continue its trend of not turning the football over at a high rate. Where does that put us in terms of the number? Let's just say they go even in the second half of the season, and I'll take the under. I'm going near jinx territory, unfortunately.
All right, let's take a break.
Go.
Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll finish up with some Nebraska picks, and then we'll roll through some Big Ten picks for Week 7. I want you guys to check out our full midseason review. We're doing some props here, but we went through and had some predictions, some other predictions for the second half of the season. That was out on YouTube and all of the podcast listening platforms on Wednesday. As Connor mentioned, we're going to bring in a guest to talk about Nebraska football on Friday, tomorrow. Excited about that. When we come back from the break, more on Nebraska. And the biggest Big Ten game of the regular season is not Ohio State, Michigan. It's happening Saturday. We're going to pick it. All right, Mitch Sherman here to tell you about Game Time. It's college football season. The playoffs are here in Major League Baseball. There's another huge game in Kansas City tonight at Kauffman Stadium. Royals have their backs against the wall. They're down 2-1 to the Yankees in the ALDS. We are keeping the faith. I don't care if Garrett Cole's on the mound. I don't care what it is. Royals are going to find a way to send that thing back to the Bronx. Connor, the look on your face tells me you need to check out Game Time, because that will make the experience of going to this game tonight or any game this fall much easier. It's an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. It makes getting tickets faster and easier. Check it out. Prices on the app go down the closer you get to first pitch or the kickoff. So wherever you want to go, if it's a hot ticket, it's there on Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app today. Game Time, last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Okay, second segment of the Thursday show, Locked On Nebraska. Mitch Sherman of The Athletic here with Connor Happer of 1620 The Zone. We're talking about Nebraska. Second half, specific predictions, player props we got to in the first segment. Let's go with some player picks here. Names needed for the first 3 of these. Nebraska's final sack leader on the season. Right now, James Williams and Ty Robinson are tied for the team lead with 4 apiece. You've got MJ Sherman, Nash Hutmaker, and John Bullock trailing slightly behind.
Yeah, I'll go chalk here. I'll take the 1 seed. Give me Ty Robinson to continue his disruptive pace.
Yep. I'm going the other one. James Williams. 2 consecutive games with 2 sacks. This kid is turning into a big story. And I like what I see. I think that he's difficult to block, and he's going to find a way to get 4 or 5 more of these things and lead the team. Season-long receiving yardage leader. Right now, it's a 2-horse race between Isaiah Nair and Jamal Banks. They're very close, just under 300 yards apiece. Who finishes atop? One of these guys or somebody else?
Yeah, I'm again taking a 1 seed here, and I'll go with the guy who's on the top by 8 yards at this moment, and that's Isaiah Nair. I just think there's more big play in there, and Nebraska might need a little bit of explosiveness in the second half against the defenses that they're going to see. But with that being said, I still think they kind of need to get some more from those guys. And the yardage numbers through 6 games are low. I mean, Nebraska's not tracking even for a 700-yard receiver at this point. So I'll take Isaiah Nair to be their leading receiver.
Yeah, you could have Dylan as a 3,000-yard passer and not have a 1,000-yard receiver on the team, which is probably a good thing to spread it out. All right, season leader for interceptions. Right now, Malcolm Hartzog has 2, and a bunch of Nebraska defenders have 1 apiece. who's it going to be that finishes atop this thing at the end? If it's a tie, same with the sacks or the receiving yardage. You're good picking anybody who ties for the lead.
I will take Tommy Hill to return. He has one, so he's not off the board yet. He has the pick 6 against Colorado. This is an interesting storyline of the second half. The Tommy Hill, Sierra Wright, tandem in that corner spot, and maybe Tommy sees a few more targets because Sierra Wright has turned himself into such a good player as well. So give me Tommy Hill, the pick guy in the second half.
Cool. I like the pick, and I'm going with Sierra Wright. I think Nebraska's corner duo, if these are the two who are getting the most reps and Tommy is healthy, is really formidable because Sierra Wright's proven himself now over multiple games to be a very good corner. So I'm going to take Sierra Wright. He's got one right now to lead the team at the end of the year. All right, last one here. Yes or no? Will Nebraska finish the season with 10 field goals? It has 4 at the moment.
No, they will not.
Yeah, that's where I lean also. Maybe I set this number too high, but Tristan Alvano potentially back against Indiana on the road next week. Good defenses Nebraska's going to play. I could see a situation where they get 6 more field goals, but I'm going to say no because of what I've seen so far. And then a bonus question before we get to the Big Ten picks. Will Nebraska be ranked on Sunday? Huskers were 27th, second most votes among teams unranked. USC right ahead of them. And as we'll find out, USC has a tough game on Saturday. So potentially, if one team drops out and the Trojans lose, Nebraska's in.
I'm going to say no, just because I don't think the voters are really excited to move teams that haven't played. So with that being said, the math could work out. I'll say no, they are not ranked going to Indiana.
Okay, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes, Nebraska is ranked. Okay, let's roll through some Big Ten picks here. Before we do that, I want to review very quickly where we're at on the season. So overall, against the spread in games that we've picked, not involving Nebraska, Connor, I am 21, 26 and 1, so pretty bad. You are 24, 23 and 1. You're treading water. 3-game lead over me so far this season. Last week, anything interesting? We both got Wisconsin to smoke Purdue. You picked Indiana to cover against Northwestern. I did not have that. We both picked USC, and USC lost outright at Minnesota. You got the Qs as a road dog to win outright. That was a good pick. You also picked Mizzou to win at and cover at A&M. They lost by 31. I had that. We got the Clemson blowout of Florida State correct. So decent week. We both I went 3-5. You went 4-4 in games in the Big Ten and nationally. This week we'll start with an 11 a.m. game. Big Fox, big noon. Washington, coming off of a victory against Michigan at home, goes to Iowa, where the Hawkeyes are a 2.5-point favorite.
This is intriguing, and here we are. Right away, we have a time zone jump game. This is going to be a talking point in the second half of the season with the West Coast teams either coming to the Central or Eastern time zone, or the opposite, the Central or Eastern time zone teams going out there. Iowa's a 2.5-point favorite. I will take Iowa begrudgingly to win at home on Big Noon on Saturday.
Yeah, I've got it too. I think that, and you see this with Washington. I think you're starting to see it with USC. We'll see if it hits Oregon. Just that adjustment to Big Ten style of football, in addition to the travel as we get to this point of the season, I think it takes a few points off of what Washington can do, and Iowa needs a bounce back absolutely after a 3-2 start. So I've got Iowa winning and covering. Next is Wisconsin at Rutgers. Rutgers 2.5-point favorite at home against the Badgers. 11 a.m. Big Ten Network on Saturday. Wisconsin got some momentum last week by blowing out Purdue at home. Rutgers, of course, coming off of a loss at Nebraska, where it probably feels like it left a little too much on the field and it was a missed opportunity.
Wisconsin's actually been pretty good over the last couple of weeks. They performed admirably at USC. I don't think that team is quite as bad as we maybe made them out to be in the first couple of weeks of the season. Rutgers is probably kicking themselves a little bit for what happened in Lincoln. This is going to be a good game, and a game probably worth watching for Nebraska fans. I'm going to take Wisconsin on the road to cover the 2.5.
Yep. I'm going to take Rutgers. I think Rutgers is going to have a chip on its shoulder. It's funny sometimes, like when we look at it from the perspective of Nebraska, you fail to see the perspective of the other team. And I think Rutgers left Lincoln thinking it left a win on the field. The way that it failed to score on the goal line stand, 1st and goal at the 2. I mean, that's a touchdown that you absolutely need to have. Some of the mistakes that Rutgers made in special teams, despite blocking the 2 punts, there were things in special teams that just went very poorly for Rutgers with the botched fake field goal, allowing Nebraska to get the fake punt, not catching the punt at the end of the game that pushed them back. So Rutgers is going to be a little chippy this week, I think, against the Badgers, and we'll get a win in that one. Penn State, 4.5-point favorites going to the Coliseum. 3 time zone jump for the Nittany Lions. They are a 4.5-point favorite. That game is 2:30 p.m. on CBS.
I love the fact that I'm gonna pick USC here, and I love the fact they're getting points. And I'm wondering where that line is going to end up as we get closer and closer to game time. There's the travel with Penn State, which I'm not like, I don't want to overdo it with that. I know it's going to become a storyline.
It's a small sample size at this point, really. I mean, these teams have played 3 conference games, so yeah, we shouldn't go crazy. If it's 2 years and you see a trend like this, okay.
So I'm going to take USC to cover the 4.5, and I actually like them to win the game at home. I like USC to beat Penn State and throw a little wrench into that Big Ten picture.
You should get bonus points if you pick that one right, like you did with Syracuse last week in Vegas. I also like USC to cover this 4.5-point line, but not to win the game. I think Penn State wins by a field goal. Okay. Last one in the Big Ten is the biggest one yet. This is a huge, huge game, not just for the league, but for the college football playoff seeding purposes. Expect both these teams to be in the college football playoff at the end of the year. Ohio State, number 2 in the country behind Texas, 3.5-point favorite at number 3, Oregon, 6:30 p.m. NBC. It will be rocking at Outson Stadium.
Yeah, and shout out to NBC. They get, this is a huge showcase for them. I'm excited to watch it on Saturday night. I'm going to take the road favorites here, the Buckeyes. I like them, and neither team has really been tested. Oregon was a little rocky at the start of the season, has kind of righted the ship a little bit. They still have a little bit of offense, what's kind of going on here. And Ohio State obviously hasn't been tested at all. So I'm excited to see how they respond just to the punch that they're going to take. But I do think overall that they're the better team and that they're going to win the game. So I'll take Ohio State here.
Yeah, welcome to the Big Ten, Oregon. This is their moment, and it's not going to kill their season. I think the Ducks are very good, and they've kind of righted things from the way that the season began on a shaky note. Boise State was better than I think we gave Boise State credit for when it challenged Oregon. So
you're gonna have the Heisman.
Maybe so. Ashton Genty, keep your eye on him. If you don't know that name, learn it. So I like Ohio State to go in and win. I think this is a day for the high flying Buckeyes. They're going to beat Oregon at Oregon's game with just a touch better athletes than what the Ducks have. Potentially a high scoring game, although it's 2 great defenses on the field too. So I'm really intrigued to see what direction this game goes.
All right, let's take a quick timeout. We'll come back. Third segment. We'll look at the national college football games for the weekend coming up on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. All right, NFL fans, college football fans, Major League Baseball fans, any fans of any sport. FanDuel Sportsbook, yes, of course. The FanDuel Sportsbook is here for you guys. It's America's #1 sportsbook, and there's a reason why I say everybody's included in this thing. It's because it has the ability to bet on just about anything. Looking at the tabs on the side, there's sports that you've never heard of on there. So when you get the hunch in the middle of the game, whether it's an NFL game like normal or it's like a cricket game from overseas, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, so much more on the same page where you place those bets. That's with FanDuel. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com. Once again, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed, and all you have to do is place your first $5 bet. Check out FanDuel today. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Okay, I think this was your turn, but I'll take it anyway. I wrote this wrong in the show outline. So final segment on a Thursday. Again, tomorrow we will have a guest. Come find us. It should be a fun conversation for the bye week. Really looking forward to that. Connor, I'm going to let you introduce the national games for Week 7. We got a big slate.
Red River, the Red River rivalry, not the Red River shootout anymore. They are in the same conference still, but it's the SEC this time, and it's still at the Cotton Bowl. Texas is a 14.5-point favorite against OU. 2:30 on ABC as God intended, Mitch.
I always like this game at 11 a.m. I do. I like it at 11 a.m. I've gotten used to that. Historically, maybe that's not where it belongs, but I'm just glad it's still at the Cotton Bowl. Okay, that line's too big. This is Texas, Oklahoma. Texas is really good this year, but in Oklahoma has been exposed when it's played elite competition, which was Tennessee.
Yep.
Maybe not so elite after Tennessee played Arkansas, but we can't get into this team did this to this team, which did this. That doesn't happen. What we need to focus on is that this is Texas, Oklahoma. And I don't care if it's in the SEC or the Big 12 or they're in different conferences. This is a competitive game. There have been years where Oklahoma has blown out Texas when you would never have expected it. That's not going to happen this week. I think Texas wins the game, but not by 15 points. No, Oklahoma to cover.
This has the smell of exactly what you just to me of exactly what you talked about, which is like we're going to get classic Texas Oklahoma. They're going to be scoring points up and down the field for basically the entire game until the end, and something wonky happens, and then Texas ends up actually covering and winning by 17 points. I'm going to take that. I'll take Texas to cover the number.
Me a curveball. I was writing down OU in your category, and then you went with it. Is this? Do we get the return of Quinn Ewers in this game? This is not an Arch Manning special, right?
I believe Quinn Ewers returning is the plan. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Huge advantage for the Horns at QB, but it's Texas, Oklahoma. Weird stuff's going to happen. There's going to be like 3 pick sixes or something.
I 100% agree with you on that. Game number 2. Man, we got a great slate this weekend. Ole Miss is on the road in Death Valley at LSU. The Rebs are a 3.5-point favorite. This is 6:30 SEC on ABC with the new wonky score bug that they have.
Yeah, I got to double check that line. I think that's right. That looks weird to me, doesn't it? That LSU is a home dog against Ole Miss, but that is correct. Ole Miss 3.5-point favorite. So this is a game where in a previous season you might look at the SEC and go, okay, I can kind of like forget about this game. They've both already lost this year. Like one of these teams is going to the college football playoff. Like maybe both of these teams are going to the college football playoff. Probably not, but certainly I would think one of them, maybe the winner of this game. So
yeah, this is a college football playoff eliminator game.
Yeah.
I mean, not exactly, but I mean, this is probably about as close as it gets.
Yeah, I like LSU. LSU at home at night is an underdog. I mean, what's Ole Miss really done? It lost at South Carolina, right? In like the only real game on the Rebs schedule so far this year. As I think I've mentioned on this show, I love Lane Kiffin more and more every year as he gets older. No, they won at South Carolina 27-3. Excuse me. I'm sorry for that. Lost at home against Kentucky. So nice win for Lane and the boys last week at South Carolina, but the previous week was not a good showing, and going into LSU is too much. I like LSU to win as an underdog at home.
Yeah, I just this is an interesting spot for LSU because they are kind of flying under the radar here. They had the huge showcase game in week 1 where they ended up falling short against USC. Kind of were back in the spotlight against South Carolina several weeks ago now, and then just ho hum the last 2 weeks against UCLA and South Alabama. So like you said, I'm getting points with LSU at home. We know that they're talented. I think they might be a little bit more physical. I'm gonna take LSU here since seem to be getting free points on the board, which seems very nice.
I had to look to see if their quarterback was hurt, Garrett Nussmeier. He's not. No,
He's a good
okay.
player too.
Yeah, it's night at LSU. I'm sorry, it's a different animal.
Yeah.
I feel like
Game
there's
number
just the
3.
mindset wrong.
Iowa State is a sneaky, but it's about to be not so sneaky anymore, college football playoff contender. They are 2.5-point favorites on the road at West Virginia, Mountain Mama, Saturday, 7:00 on Fox.
Yeah, I want to watch this game because I haven't seen Iowa State this year, and Matt Campbell, I think, is a great coach. Just gets the most out of his team every year. This is it. Texas and Oklahoma are gone from the league. They're ranked 11th in the country. Iowa State, legit, if it gets through this week, could be 10-0 in the middle of November with the way that its schedule sets up before a big game against Kansas State to close things out. There's obviously another game before it gets to the season ender, but I like Iowa State. I think that the Clones are going to get it done. Go on the road, cover as a 2.5-point favorite.
This is the last thing that a top 10, top 15 rated undefeated team wants to see. A trip to West Virginia. It's just, it's remote. It's scary. The people are insane.
They burn couches.
Yeah. West Virginia is like at least a good football team. Nothing over the top impressive on their resume so far this year. I know people were picking them in that week 1 game against Penn State that ended up being screwed up by lightning and all that stuff. But I'm also going to take the Clones as a road favorite in this game. Nice. Scary stuff, but I'll take Iowa State.
If Iowa State gets past this, coming up for the Clones, UCF at home, Texas Tech at home, at Kansas, which is currently 1-5, Cincinnati at home. So that gets you to the week before Thanksgiving, potentially at 10-0 if Iowa State can take care of West Virginia. And then it closes with a road game against Utah and K-State at home. So that will be tough. Yeah.
No guarantees in that schedule either. The Big 12 is predictably going to be a total mess as we get close to the end of the season. And our final game, speaking of the Big 12 and speaking of being a total mess, Kansas State is at Colorado. K-State is a 4.5-point favorite, but is there some buzz now on CU as a good team and to potentially pull the upset, Mitch?
Yeah, there is some buzz. There's definitely some buzz. There's always buzz around CU and what CU did in going and putting a hurt on UCF on the road. That was impressive. Only loss for the Buffs is in Lincoln in week 2. So this to me is a great nightcap. 9:15 on ESPN. Really, there's so much good football. It's not even like that it's good football. It's entertaining, the kind of football that you want to see, like from Texas, Oklahoma. They're obviously Ohio State, Oregon, the Penn State, USC thing's intriguing. This one to close out the night. I think Saturday is just going to be a great day to watch football. So glad that Nebraska's not playing this Saturday to like take 10 hours out of my day. I will take Kansas State. I didn't believe in Colorado at the beginning of the year. I believe in Colorado a little bit more now after seeing the way the Buffs have bounced back from the Nebraska loss. Kansas State is just not a matchup that I like for Colorado because they're going to play fundamental punch in the mouth football. I think K-State goes in there and wins by 10 to 14 points.
Oh boy. This is a tough one. Cause I kind of do want to take Colorado. I just think it's a nice spot for them. But I like Colorado against teams that kind of want to hem you in and go slower and, like take the ball out of their hands, and Colorado loses Colorado is much better suited in games that are spread out and insane. The Baylor game a few weeks ago with the Hail Mary, like they thrive in those scenarios. And that's a lot of the Big 12, but it's not K-State. So I'll take K-State to cover the 4.5. Once again, begrudgingly. These were very hard to pick this week.
Yeah, great week. It's going to be fun.
Yep.
All right, that's it for the show on this Thursday. Tune in on Friday as we come back with the guest and then get you ready for Nebraska at Indiana next week. Huge week in week 7 of college football. Thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen today. Now go check out the Locked On College Football podcast to hear more about all of that stuff that we just discussed. Spencer McLaughlin has all that you need to get through this week and every week of an exciting season. You can find the link to that show in the description of this one, so there's no need to search. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.